it. I am very honored and very happy to have one of my friends and colleagues. We've been working pretty closely together on our marketing skills over the past couple of months.
Yep.
Dr. Glenn Garland Glenn. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's very easy to confuse your name. So that's why I'm saying it like that. So your first name is Garland and your last name is Glenn. So you are Dr. Garland Glenn.
Absolutely.
And Dr. Glenn has awesome information to share with us tonight about what other factors we need to look at in order to prevent breast cancer, to be a little bit more vigilant once we've had breast cancer. And those are things that you might not necessarily think about. They are related to leaky gut, they're related to possible autoimmune conditions, and they are related to your genetics and which of your genes can possibly be expressed by which lifestyle factors.
Right.
So we're going to talk about that tonight. But before we start, I'd like to introduce you formally because it's very important that people understand who I'm talking to. And I'm going to read from your bio here. So Dr. Glenn, you are an international speaker and a functional medicine practitioner. Now, your patient base is based globally. You first started in electrical engineering several years ago before you returned to school in the 80s to do your national health at the National Health Sciences University. And you earned your DC degree, Doctor of Chiropractic Care, in 1985. But then what happened is you had an opportunity to live and study in Europe in the 1990s, and you lived in the Netherlands. And there you completed your diplomate in neurology at the prestigious Carrick Institute in Amsterdam. You are also a graduate of the Kalish Institute in Functional Medicine here in the US, and you are currently writing your PhD dissertation in integrative medicine.
Right.
You're a member of the International Association of Functional Neurology and Rehabilitation. So the brain, the functioning of the brain seems to be a really good interest for you. Now, you've lived and you've practiced both in the US as well as in Europe. And that, of course, has given you a unique perspective on lifestyle and the impact that it has on chronic disease from both perspectives. And I think that's awesome. And we're going to hear some of that contribution from looking at it from a European as well as a US perspective when we chat just now. You are licensed in several states in the United States as well as the UK, and I believe you have a client base that is globally based.
Right.
So, Dr. Glenn, what shall we kick this off with? I know you have lots to contribute. We even have screen shares prepared for you. So, shall we get going?
Yes.
What would you like to begin with?
What I'd like to talk with you tonight about is sort of a concept on cancer that we had no clue about when I was in school. And unfortunately, a lot of doctors are still looking at cancer as either a genetic thing that you can't do anything about or as a completely random event for which you have no control over. And actually, for a lot of different things like this, we know a lot more about it than we did before. All right. So what I thought I would show you today is something that we had no idea about before. So I'm going to bring up something and do a little screen share with you. And as a matter of fact, let me get it. I'm going to do the screen share first. That might work a little bit better. All right. So what we have is we have a picture here of something of chromosome 16, which is one of your chromosomes. And this is something we knew very, very little about up until just a few years ago. But on chromosome 16, you'll actually see there's autoimmune diseases. All right. And you've heard of some of these, such as IBD, lupus, type 1 diabetes, and rheumatoid. But there are also some cancer genes on here. And being that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, you'll see this guy right here. There is actually a gene for breast cancer. Well, now that's not necessarily a surprise. But one of the things that has come, that's sort of a new field in biology, is something called epigenetics. And in epigenetics, what we have learned is that only about 25% of your genes are automatically turned on, and roughly 75% of your genetic code can be turned on and can be turned off, and that's turned on and off by your environment. And this is absolutely just a huge, huge, move forward in our understanding of these things. Now, one of the things that has been shown to turn these genes on is something called zonulin. And the first thing you'll say is, well, what in the heck is zonulin? Well,
exactly.
That's, as a matter of fact, a lot of doctors say, what is zonulin? Never heard of zonulin. Well, you probably haven't heard of it because it wasn't even discovered until the year 2000. And zonulin was discovered in the year 2000 by a guy at the University of Maryland Medical School, Alessio Fasano, who now actually teaches at Harvard. So this is not, backwater speculative stuff. This is top shelf academic stuff. All right. And what we have found is that this stuff called zonulin, and I'm going to tell you in a minute what it is it's been shown to turn a lot of these genes on. Now, the big question is, at this point, what is zonulin? Well, zonulin it's a protein, and it's responsible for keeping the cells in your body, especially in your gut, tight up together, right? So let me show you what that looks like. Let me get rid of this, and let me bring up another picture for you. Now, this is... It's a little dark, but this came from a colleague of mine down at the University of Virginia who does research on intestinal lining cells. And if you'll see over in this picture right here, these are cells, and the little purple bits, these are the nucleus of the cells, and this sort of neon green line here, those are the cell walls. And what you'll notice is that the cell walls are uptight against each other. They're like cells in row houses or townhouses. And those cells should be so tight together that nothing can fit between them. Like you can't get anything between the walls of two neighboring townhouses. The idea here is that if you want to get from the front yard to the backyard of the townhouse, you have to go through the house. So it works like a filter. And the only things that can fit through here from your gut, let's say, are things that can pass through the cell itself. Now, when the gut lining becomes irritated, it produces this stuff called zonulin. And there are a lot of things that can irritate the gut lining. Pesticides will do it. Gluten does it. I didn't even know what gluten was. I developed a gluten problem 6 years ago, and I didn't even know what gluten was. And here I thought I was having a heart attack, and I actually was going to the emergency room. And let me show you something here. Glyphosate is one of the major pesticides used in the world, but especially in North America right now. And the interesting thing is that 1994 was the first year that glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup, it is the first year it was sprayed on our crops. And if you want to look up something really interesting, go Google the increase in chronic disease of all kinds, everything from Alzheimer's to Hashimoto's to all your autoimmune diseases. They all start going up like the hockey stick in the mid-90s. So let's look at what happens to the gut lining when you expose it to zonulin. Well, this right here, to glyphosate. Glyphosate causes you to make zonulin, right? Yes. All right. So 2 minutes after exposure to glyphosate, you'll see these cells, they still look pretty good right there. Now, 10 minutes after exposure to the glyphosate, you see this is becoming disorganized and they're starting to break down. And then 16 minutes. It only takes 16 minutes.
That's amazing.
For these cells to break apart. That's right.
Yeah.
So what you have now is that, your gut lining is supposed to act like a filter, like the coffee filter for your coffee machine. And if you have a good filter, you have coffee grounds in the pot, in the basket, and in the pot you get the coffee. But if some mean, horrible person comes along and pokes your coffee filter full of holes, you'll end up with stuff in your coffee you don't want, and you'll have a big reaction. Well, this right here, you can see this right here, that's a hole in the intestinal lining. And when you get that hole, you can get all kinds of things into the blood that you don't want, including zonulin, because everything that's in your gut that will fit through that hole right there will get into the blood system. Now, remember, we showed you that a lot of those genes can be turned on by zonulin. So if zonulin gets into your blood and you've got those genes, you run a real big risk of turning those genes on. So let me show you something else that was just published not too long ago. Again, this was also published by Dr. Fasano, and I've kind of taken it and made a graphic out of it because I use this particular slide when I talk to patients about autoimmune and how you actually trigger an autoimmune disease. And what we now know, we never knew this when I was in school. Didn't have any clue. We thought if you had a gene, it's turned on, there's nothing you can do about it. You should have picked different parents. Well, it's not true. What we now know is that 75% of your genes can be turned on and they can be turned off. But what causes you to develop the autoimmune disease, of which breast cancer is now showing to be actually an autoimmune disease? So you have to have the genetic predisposition. Now that you get from mom and dad, and there's not much you can do about that. But remember, if you got the gene, you still have to turn it on. What does it take to turn that gene on? Well, it takes a leaky gut. Remember, leaky gut, we didn't even know what a leaky gut was 15 years ago. And now we know what it is. And I just showed you a picture of a leaky gut. So when the cells break down in the gut, you get stuff passed through that shouldn't be there. And in order to turn that gene on, not only do you have to have the gene, it has to be there so we can turn it on. Then you have to have the leaky gut that lets something into the blood, and that's called an environmental trigger. And in this case, we're talking about zonulin being the environmental trigger. So we go back here, and you look at all of these chromosomes that are sitting, all these genes that are sitting on chromosome 16. There's your breast cancer gene right there. And all of these diseases have been linked to zonulin turning those genes on. And that is just absolutely huge, which is why I sent you the article this morning out of the London Times that was just, did I send it to you yesterday?
Yeah.
I sent it to you yesterday. There was an article published in the London Times yesterday. It's the largest study of its kind ever done, where they followed 70,000 people for 5 years. And they showed that people who eat organic, or think about it this way, people who take care of what they eat.
Yes, who eat clean.
Eat clean. That's the thing. So it's not just organic food, but it's also if you eat beef and fish and stuff like that, it applies to that too. You need to eat clean. And what they've shown is people that eat clean have a 25% reduction in the incidence of cancer. That is a huge thing. Yeah.
And if you think about that, let's highlight that. This was a study done, and I think you need to stop the screen share again to get us both back together in here, right?
Yep.
There we go. I think it's very, very, just the magnitude of the study. Like you say, it was one of those mega studies because it took over 5 years, and it looked at 70,000 people and followed their eating habits over a time period. Mm-hmm. And to really come up with a statistic that is as significant as 25% reduced risk, that is amazing. And that it just shows you that the pesticides, environmental pollution that we're allowing in through certain foods that we are eating is having a direct impact on our health. And you've just given us a really, really great.
Sorry, I went a little fast there. I get excited about this.
No, I think it's so important because, again, I think what we need to highlight here is that this is information that we didn't have a few years ago, and that many of our standard doctors, oncologists, and I have the highest regard for them. Mm-hmm. But when they went to school, this was not taught. This wasn't even heard of. And this is this kind of research is what comes to the forefront when we have a functional medicine approach, when we're trying to get to the root causes and what is triggering these incidences, rather than just trying to firefight something, like when you have cancer, let's try and kill the cancer, let's fight the cancer there and then. Well, what are the underlying causes? And if we wish to prevent something like breast cancer or any of the other chronic illnesses that you also listed there, many of the autoimmune conditions too, if we want to prevent them, or in cancer, when we've had cancer, when we want to try and prevent a recurrence, we need to understand that there are certain underlying triggers that we might be unknowingly contributing to without really being aware of it. And yet that is something within our control that we need to change.
Exactly.
Right?
You know, another perspective to sort of a window to look at this whole thing through, and that is prior to the 1940s, the number one cause of death on the planet was infectious disease.
Yes.
1942, the woman's name was White at Yale Hospital in New Haven, Connecticut. She was the first person ever to be given, as far as we know, an antibiotic. Yeah. Well, an antibiotic got rid of the infectious disease. And so what happens is we get the concept that, oh, when we get sick, we take a pill.
Yeah.
Because that was a paradigm shift. The problem is healthcare bet the farm on becoming specialized and pharmaceutically dependent. Now, I'm not anti-drug. I'm anti the wrong treatment. And what we see now is we see this escalation of chronic disease. Well, we've got acute disease under control pretty much.
Yes.
This is the big perspective that I got living in Europe. Because, you know, there are exceptions and so forth, but the North America is predominantly still a Western European country genetically. All right. Mm-hmm. And yet we are way sicker than Western Europe. Yeah. The biggest difference between Western Europe and North America is what we eat. Mm-hmm. This is why what you're doing is so unbelievably important.
Yeah.
The most important thing you can do is what you eat.
Yes.
You know?
And why is there such a big difference? Sorry to cut in and to interrupt you here.
Go.
But because in the US, there are so many pesticides and additives allowed that are not allowed in the European Union. They do not exist in their standard food supply. Do you find organic produce in Europe too? Yes, you do. But even the standard food is of a higher quality. Yeah.
So, and we also, and I'm going to say, we also had this, we still have it. Most people are not, they don't realize there are only 21 medical schools in the United States today that even have one course on nutrition. 99% of doctors have no nutritional training at all, period. Yeah. What happened is we developed this cavalier attitude that we can eat whatever we want. The body will take out what it needs and get rid of the rest. And it doesn't matter what you eat. You can eat Twinkies. You can eat grass-fed beef. You can eat broccoli. It doesn't matter. Your body will take what it needs. And we thought we were bulletproof. So we thought we could spray this garbage all over our food. We could eat it. Our body would sort it out. But it hasn't worked that way. Yeah. And now we have a medical system that's geared towards fixing acute problems. But the problems that faced us in the West now are not acute problems. Yep. They're chronic disease. And we don't have a system that can fix chronic disease.
Yeah. And you can't fix it by just taking a pill.
No.
You make it worse.
I developed a leaky gut 6 years ago after taking an antibiotic for a root canal. I didn't even know what a leaky gut was, but I decided this is what I was going to focus. I was going to learn about this. I spent 2 hours every morning before I went to the office for 3 years learning functional medicine. Mm-hmm. Most doctors are not willing to put that kind of time into training. Yeah. So your typical doctor can't just go do functional medicine. You've got to retrain. It's like going back to school for a year in the middle of your career, and they just don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yet it makes so much sense because, first of all, you get to underlying root causes, and also it puts the onus on being proactive and being responsible for your healthcare back in your shoes. What happened to us as a society that we just abrogated ourselves to the expert and said, you will take care of my health? We don't do that with anybody else. Yet here we are. And we just, hope that I see that time and time again in the cancer patients that I work with.
Sure.
Is this kind of submission to the doctor will know best.
We have been trained that the doctor knows everything that there is to be known and will automatically make the right decision. I mean, we even have the saying, well, it's doctor's orders. Nobody ever says it's the plumber's orders. Nobody ever says it's the bus driver's orders, but the doctor's orders are like this sacred oracle that comes down from on high. And we just are supposed to do, some people need to fire their doctor.
Yeah.
I tell this to people all the time. My
I
doctor
do too. I do too. When you have a very arrogant attitude and the doctor is not willing to see you as a equal, respectable, intelligent human being. If there's any form of arrogance or any form of talking down to, then you have the wrong person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there you go. You got food is the most important thing in your health. It really, really is. Especially once you're into, let's say you have cancer. Well, that's not when you quit eating properly. That's when it becomes even more important
to do it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So to get back to the zonulin and to get back to what causes the let's say largest amount of damage for the zonulin. Do you, for example, let's get down to basics. Do you, for your patients, do you want your patients to be gluten-free, or is that something that you determine through certain functional lab tests to see if there actually exists a wheat sensitivity, if they need to be gluten-free?
I do both. Now, and I'll use myself as an example. Some people have a gluten sensitivity. If you have a gluten sensitivity, you're going to irritate the intestinal lining, you will make zonulin, you will break down your gut, and you run the risk of triggering an autoimmune disease, and it could be cancer, it could be multiple sclerosis, it could be Alzheimer's, it could be a lot of different things. One of the things you have to remember too, once you develop one autoimmune disease, your risk of developing a second one goes up 300%. Now, gluten causes irritation of the intestinal lining. But here's one important thing. We historically have an enzyme called DPP4, 4 written like the Roman numeral 4. DPP4 neutralizes the damaging effect of zonulin. But in order to have DPP4, you have to have a healthy gut microbiome, a healthy gut bacteria. I developed my problem because I took an antibiotic for a root canal, which antibiotics destroy all your bacteria. Okay. So I had no protection. I was making no DPP4. The day after my root canal, I ate 5 pizzas. That's kind of like gluten overload, right? So I ate 5 pizzas. So I don't have any, I destroyed my DPP4. And so I developed a sensitivity to gluten. Now, in my case, my son still lives in the UK, so we go back to the UK quite often. And I sort of figured this out a couple of years ago because they have these things in England called sausage rolls. And sausage rolls are they're really good. And you go to the pub and you really want a sausage roll. And I thought, hell with it. I'm going to eat one. I'll pay for it. If I eat gluten here in North America, I blow up like a blimp. I look like Arnold Schwarzenegger pregnant. Okay. Well, I decide I'm going to eat a sausage roll and I'll pay for it later, but I'm going to have one. So I ate a sausage roll and nothing happened. And I have, what's going on here? I thought I had a gluten sensitivity. Well, I find out my sensitivity is actually, I'm more sensitive to the pesticide than I am to the gluten. And here's how that plays out. If you eat regular corn chips and you bloat, you have a pesticide problem, probably, because they spray glyphosate Roundup on our corn crops, just like our other grain crops. So I have to eat non-GMO corn chips. And in North America, here, I live in Virginia, I don't eat gluten because it comes with the pesticide. Yeah. No,
very, very important point to help people distinguish what they need to be aware of. And I've had that too. I've had clients go overseas. Italy. Italy has a lot of white flour products, and same thing. They say, I'm fine. I have no symptoms. I feel, I have energy. I'm feeling fine. But back in the US, I have issues. I have digestive issues. I'm very fatigued. I get headaches. I get migraines. Yeah. So again, it's kind of, what is it? Is it let's test for certain, just to figure out if we have an allergy to a food or if we have a sensitivity to a food. We want to know these things, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes it's also the understanding of, if it's just conventional food, are we maybe just reacting to the pesticides that are associated with that? Yeah.
Yeah. And, you probably have talked about the Cyrex labs. Cyrex is a great lab to run. You can get things you can get cross-reactive proteins sometimes, where proteins look enough like each other that your immune system mistakes one for the other. That can happen with wheat and corn. It can happen with oats. Oats don't have gluten.
Yeah, mimicking.
They can do that. Yeah.
It's molecular mimicking.
Mimicry.
Right?
Molecular mimicry. Think about molecular mimicry works like this. You go to the grocery store, you see somebody at the other end of the aisle, it looks like a friend from high school or your neighbor or something. You walk up, you're getting ready to tap them on the shoulder. They turn around. It's not your friend.
Yes.
That is molecular mimicry. They looked close enough to where you mistook them for a while. And the immune system does that all the time.
Yeah. And you can get an autoimmune reaction then that way.
Absolutely. So, and that's how you develop, that's how you develop the autoimmune, is you start attacking something that looks like you, and now you're attacking yourself as well. Yeah,
exactly. So again, bottling down to, it's our food choices and just understanding that clean is important. And, maybe throwing this comment in, does it always have to be organic? Well, sometimes you can go to your local farm and you can have a discussion and ask. Some of the smaller local farms aren't necessarily officially organic. They don't have the organic seal. It's very expensive to become organic, but they may not use pesticides. So their produce might be clean. Or if you go apple picking season here in along the East Coast, ask, do you spray your apples? Well, if they do, there's your answer. Don't touch those apples. It's as simple as that.
Because you can't just wash it off. It soaks into the food.
Yes. And certain produce you can peel, but certain produce you can't. And that's where I always refer my clients to the Environmental Working Group here in the US. They are not for-profit educational group. And they have what they call the Dirty Dozen, but it's actually a list of 14. And those are foods that retain pesticides kind of the longest. It gets absorbed the deepest. And those are the foods that you certainly should not actually eat unless they are organic. So that gives you kind of an indicator if budget is of the concern. But you know what? Your health is your investment. And if clients say to me, I can't afford it, well, I say, well, you know what? This is your health. Take a step back and see, where are you spending money on? How often are you getting yourself a treat drink at Starbucks or whatever the case may be? You have to make certain shifts in your lifestyle, and that includes sometimes reallocating some of the money that you spend too. And there are ways and means when it comes to organic. If you buy in bulk and if you buy from scratch, certain things that'll last you much longer than if you buy it ready prepared or ready bought. And there's certain foodstuffs you can do yourself. So fermented foods, it's very easy and quick to do it yourself. You don't have to go out and spend $7 or $8 per glass of really good fermented produce. Just do it yourself. It really is. It's that quick to do. So.
The average person in North America spends the last 10 years of their life sick.
Yes.
Here's what I tell my I tell my patients, look, I walk my talk. If I'm going to the grocery store and I cook a lot, if I'm going to the grocery store and I'm going to buy, let's say, broccoli, and I go over to the organic side and let's say they want $10 for broccoli. That's too much, but
I know.
Just as an example, I said, you know what? I'm not going to pay $10 for broccoli. Yeah. I'll either buy something else, or if it's not one of the Dirty Dozen, but if it's one of the Clean 15, well, then I'll go buy the regular. So I look at it like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll pay more for organic. I'm not going to get stuck paying. I'm not going to be ridiculous about it.
Yeah.
But you know what? It goes down to grass-fed, beef and free-range chickens and all these things too. If you eat protein like that, that's fine. It helps to make a market for the people that are trying to do it right. So will I pay a little more? Yeah, I'll pay a little more. I'm not going to pay 3 times more, but I'll pay more.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I want to make a market for these people so that they can stay in business and keep making food that I need to eat.
Real food.
Real food.
Real food.
Absolutely. Real food.
So I think I was going to ask you what's the most important thing we can do, but I think you just answered that.
Yeah. Eat real food.
Eat real food. Eat
That's
clean food. And
I'm not throwing myself up as an example, but I've done this. The other day we were talking with my wife, and I were talking with some people, and they were all concerned about, well, my insurance won't pay for what they needed to do. And I thought about it. I never really thought about it before. I've never filed an insurance claim in my entire life. And my wife has not filed a claim in 30 years since our youngest son was born. Mm-hmm. So between the two of us, we have gone a long time and never even used health insurance. Why? We take care of ourselves and we eat right. Yeah. Yeah. Makes a big difference.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Evidence is there.
Absolutely.
So, well, thank you. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much for your wise words. And I love the fact that you shared those slides. That just makes it so much more visible because, this is real science. It's out there.
It's real science.
To be shared. Yes, absolutely. So thank you so much
You're welcome.
For your wise words and for being on my little chat show here. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Where could people find you? If people are interested in seeing you, I know you see global patients too. How can they get hold of you?
Go to drgarlandglenn.com, just DRGARLANDGLENN.com. And if you go there on that homepage, there's actually something for you if you'd like. There's a couple of little booklets that I have, but if you'll scroll down, there's a place where if you want to learn some more, I have something called 30 Ways in 30 Days. And what I did is I went and I made they're about 2 to 3 minute videos that have a health tip on them. And you can get a little health tip every day for a month and just little things that are easy to implement. And you can get those. And there's a lot of tips in there about things, how to get better sleep, how to become regular. That's a good one. How to know if you have a vitamin D deficiency. And there's a lot of things in there, how to lower your stress level and things like that, things that you can actually do.
Yeah. And a quick tip. I think it's wonderful. Thank you. It's a great resource to share.
There's also some webinars on there. If anybody's interested in thyroid problems, autoimmune problems, adrenal problems, I've got webinars you can just click in and watch.
Super.
Okay.
Super. Thank you. And again, that was
DrGarlandGlenn.com.
DrGarlandGlenn.com. Remember, his last name is Glenn and his first name is Garland. DrGarlandGlenn.com. Again, thank you so much. And
you're welcome.
Goodbye, everybody. Take care for now.
Okay. Bye.